Like Nadia Comaneci before her, Mary Lou Retton was an Olympic and American Cup champion under coach Bella Caroli. Then a year ago, 13-year-old Christy Phillips took on the world in the American Cup and came away with another championship for coach Caroli. And this year, Phoebe Mills, yet another Caroli protege, joins Phillips in the 1987 McDonald's American Cup. We are live on CBS Sports Sunday coverage of the 1987 American Cup Gymnastics Championships from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Ryan with Olympic gold medalist and three-time winner of an American Cup championship himself, Bart Conner, and we'll be joined by our own Ann Butler as the program moves along. Well, the program has been moving along with great excitement today, Bart. Yesterday, of course, there were 42 gymnasts in all qualifying to make it into the final 16, 8 men, 8 women here today. Now, the American team has, of course, Christy Phillips defending her American Cup Women's Championship. The men's team was somewhat hurt by the injury to Tim Daggett.
Yeah, Tim did hurt his neck a week ago, but he seems to be doing well in Los Angeles, recuperating right now. But we do have a very strong competition going on here. Absolutely. I mean, the Soviets have sent some terrific gymnasts, and generally what they do is send some people who are very close to breaking onto the international scene, and they have 2 outstanding performers here today. Vladimir Gogoladze for the men, and for the girls, Olga Strazheva.
Well, in the women's competition, they will compete in 4 events. The vault, uneven bars, balance beam, where we are now, and the floor exercise. And the current standings, as we are in that 3rd rotation for the women, Olga Strazheva, a relatively unknown Soviet, but looking very good in first place. Phoebe Mills, Christy Phillips right behind her, and Augustina Badja from Romania. Now, Olga Strazheva still to come in the balance beam event, awaiting that, and earlier in her uneven bars performance just a few minutes ago, she was spectacular, Bart.
She is probably one of the best bar workers in the world. She has a tremendous line of extension. Notice here a perfect line in the handstand, free hip. Now watch the free-flowing swing. Look at that giant swing, topped off with perfect form, and she kicks out of this double back and nails the landing. She's tough there, scored 9.9.
14-year-old Olga Strazheva, 9.9 on the uneven bars, and so she is in first place in the women's at this point. Now, in the men's exercises, they have 6 different events. They've currently gone through the first 4. They're now competing on the parallel bars, and at this point, the leader is Brian Ginsburg of the United States, with Scott Johnson right behind him, and the Soviet, who is very tough, not out of it yet, Vladimir Gogoladze, who was very impressive yesterday. He led the preliminary qualifying round, and so we've got live action ahead. And coming up, it'll be Gogoladze and Olga Strazheva when we return with the American Cup. Live from Fairfax, Virginia, Tim Ryan and Bart Conner with Ann Butler at the 1987 American Cup Gymnastics Championships. And in the balance beam competition, we'll be watching this young lady shortly. They're having their warm-ups right now. Olga Strazheva. She is 14 years of age. She's from the Ukraine, Zaporizhia, in the Ukraine, and yesterday on this event she had a 9.9, and so we expect her to be equally as tough today. Now, Ann Butler spoke with American coach Bella Caroli to get his impressions of Olga.
Bella, of course, you've been preoccupied with Christy and Phoebe over the last couple of days, but how do you assess the Russian competitor's skill? She scored a 9.9 on the balance beam just yesterday.
The little Russia girl yesterday did a good routine with pretty solid, even though she took out a few skills just to make more secure and more solid. But otherwise, the performance was clean with no major mistake in it. She's a pretty strong competitor. She's one of the better ones right now in her country. And hopefully going to be one of the, actually that's the Russians' hope, that's going to be one of the Olympic contenders.
Well, there's a look at Olga, and Bart Conner. I think Bella Caroli kind of let the cat out of the bag. When you talk to the Soviets, they're always a little vague about where these youngsters stand that they bring over here and introduce for the first time, where they stand in their own national picture. Olga herself placed herself about number 5, she said, but we learned from another member of the Soviet delegation that she's thought of as highly as number 3 behind Shushanova and Omielanchik, who are recognized around the world as probably their top 2 women.
And what's interesting about that fact is on any given day, any one of maybe 10 girls could be the Soviet national champions. They're that strong, they're that deep.
Well, the depth on that Soviet gymnastic team is really something indeed, but this young lady came in here yesterday showing tremendous maturity at age 14, a lot of confidence. She won the qualifying round yesterday with 39.3 points out of a possible 40. Came first in the vault, the bars, and the beam, and on the beam, which she is about to compete in here, she had a 9.9. And indeed, there's her score, 9.9 from the beam yesterday. And she finished 7th in the floor exercise, and really, Bart, only because she stepped out on a very difficult trick in her tumbling run.
She was actually trying some very difficult elements, as she will be doing here on the balance beam. One thing that is so terrific about the Soviet athletes is they never hold back. Watch this mount. Back handspring, back handspring. Oh! She was a little bit off on that second back handspring. Yesterday, at that point, she went right into a laid-out backflip. Now watch this trick. There's a one-arm handstand. Back to a two-handstand. Isn't that great? That's called a Healy twirl down to the beam. I've never seen that attempted before on women's balance beam. I think one thing that's terrific about her style is she's very confident, she's very poised, she stands tall, she has terrific extension. There's almost a cockiness about it. There's almost a arrogance to her performance that I think is really infectious.
Do you know what her name translates to in English? Strazheva, the secure one. Exactly what you just described.
I think that's very appropriate. Notice here she does very clean, full turn. Nice fluid movement, so it's important that she doesn't stop too long right here before her tumbling skills. Back handspring layout. Beautiful split leaps. Here she is setting up for her double back dismount, which she did effortlessly yesterday. Tuck double back. Okay, one hop on the landing, but a very nice exercise. A little trouble at the beginning, but I'm sure it'll have to score well because she still had all the necessary difficulty in that exercise.
Olga Strazheva, who led the qualifying yesterday, had a 9.9 on this beam exercise yesterday, and the leader at this point today. She may be number 3 or number 5 in the Soviet Union, but right now she's number 1 at the American Cup. But there is still another full rotation to go, and still Phoebe Mills to come on the beam.
On her mount, she does a round off onto the board. Back handspring, and she's supposed to go into a layout back there, but you can notice she was a little off balance, so she watered back there to stay on the beam.
Well, we'll be back with her score here, which could be a critical one for the current leader, Olga Strazheva, with those little problems. We'll be right back. You're looking at Olga Strazheva live in Fairfax, Virginia at George Mason University. She is the leader in the women's competition. She had a 9.75 on the beam that you just saw. And now we're going to go over to the men's competition. And our first look at the Russian man representative here today. And when we say Russian, that's not strictly speaking correct. He is a Georgian from the Soviet Union. And his name is Vladimir Gogoladze. And he looked very impressive yesterday, Bart.
He did, Tim. And one thing that I like about Gogoladze's style is he's a very complete gymnast on all the pieces of equipment. He is excellent. It's not like he has 1 or 2 hot spots and 1 or 2 weak spots. He's very consistent across the board, and that's one of the reasons why he's such a strong competitor in this event here.
20 years of age from Tbilisi in the Georgian Republic, and yesterday on the parallel bars he was second with a score of 9.75, but he won the qualifying overall with 58.1.
And he's off to a terrific start here. He's doing some unique elements. Healy twirl with his legs apart in straddle position. Very nice extension in the handstands. Notice he's right on top of the handstand. Perfect position, excellent toe point. Those are the things that you need to do to get the big score. Pike double back, and a great landing. That is going to be tough to beat.
Gogoladze needs a perfect 10 there to take the lead, but of course he's got more action ahead. Yet another exercise to go. Let's go back and watch his dismount, which was a dandy.
One of the things that makes this so difficult is lots of gymnasts are doing the double back dismount, but not very many of them do it like this. He does a back toss to a perfectly straight handstand, and now this double back somersault is done in a piked position. Very difficult to land, but obviously not difficult for him.
Vladimir Gogoladze, 20 years of age. working on an entirely new set of routines that he's getting ready for the European Championships in May. As usual, they were a little closed-mouthed, the Soviet delegation, about whether or not he would show some of those new routines here. But this is considered by the Soviets a real important springboard to the remaining competitions this year. And there is his score on the parallel bars, 9.75, so he continues to trail Brian Ginsburg, the American, in the men's standings.
And actually, Tim, I thought he should have scored a little higher. His exercise was clean. He had all the necessary difficulty, and I didn't see any room for mistakes. I think he should have scored at least a 9.8, maybe a 9.9.
Currently third in the men's standings. Gogoladze was second in the 1986 all-around at the Spartakiad, his best finish in 1986. College student at the University of Tbilisi in the Georgian Republic of the Soviet Union. Bella Karoli, the Romanian, now coaching those two young ladies. On the left, you have Phoebe Mills. On the right, Christy Phillips, the defending American Cup champion, both training in Houston at Bella Karoli's gym down there, where he is churning out gymnastic stars. And he has had great success here because Nadia Comaneci, a former winner here at the American Cup, and then, of course, Mary Lou Retton, now these two young ladies. So here's how it stands. Currently in rotation 3, Olga Strazheva of the Soviet Union with a narrow lead over the defending champion Phillips. Phoebe Mills in good position, and the outstanding-looking young Romanian, Augustina Badja, trying to carry on the great tradition of gymnastics in Romania.
Who is going, the boys or the girls up?
And Bella Karoli, you can hear him checking at the
who goes, the boys or the girls? Good.
Bench there to see how things stand and what the order will be in the final rotation, which will be on the floor exercise for the women. I find it hard to say women when the oldest competitor here, Bart Connor, is 15 years of age in this competition of the final 8.
And
they're
small.
Really girls.
They range from about 4 feet tall to about 4.5 feet tall.
We have time.
Bella Karoli, what an impact he's had. He's kind of the Ion Tiriac of gymnastics. And we'll find out more about the success he's had with Christy Phillips and Phoebe Mills with our Ann Butler.
They arrive each morning at 7 at a gym just north of Houston. Little girls with big dreams. These are the charges of Bella Karoli. And among them is perhaps our country's finest female gymnast, Christy Phillips, and her greatest rival, Phoebe Mills.
Both of them high-determined, hard-working young athletes. No question about that. Both of them, they set high goals, and they're going for that.
Bella's Mary Lou set the mark for Karoli's kids, and it was no less than perfect. And while Christy Phillips has been deemed heir apparent largely on her surprising first-place finish in last year's American Cup, she couldn't have done it without a little help from her friend.
I couldn't have done it last year without Phoebe because we just push each other so much in the gym.
She's perfectly right. Her everyday competition with Phoebe is the more important than the final competition where you go out and compete against somebody else.
I know what she's doing all the time, and she pushes me very much so because she's the best gymnast, and so I know that since I've got the best gymnast, I have to work my hardest all the time.
While last year's American Cup established Christy Phillips as Bella's best, the competition in the gym grew, and when last summer's Olympic festival was over, Christy had emerged with the gold, but not without a fight from Phoebe. And then, in October, USA versus China, all it took was a slip from Christy, and Phoebe Mills vaulted into the limelight, winning the all-around Florex beam and bars.
Sometimes we might get a little jealous of each other if one learns a new trick, and we've been working on it too.
And they watch each other just like little hawks. And if one of them did something better, oh, the other ones want to do better. So the progress and the competition really is generating that great progress, what is so badly needed in gymnastics.
Well, here's how they stand now in the women's competition, and Bella Caroli can be very pleased with this picture because Christy Phillips and Phoebe Mills each have one more rotation to go. Behind Olga Strazheva, they're coming to the floor exercise, and so it's still very much up for grabs as Christy Phillips will try to defend her crown, and Phoebe and Olga will try to take it away. The men's picture looks like this. Remember, they have 6 different events as opposed to 4 for the women, and Brian Ginsburg, somewhat of a surprise leader here, although he was a silver medalist a year ago at the American Cup, and Scott Johnson right behind him, followed by Vladimir Gogoladze. They have the high bar remaining in the final event, and there is Phoebe Mills with Bella Caroli as they await the final rotation here live in Fairfax, Virginia. Tim Ryan and Bart Connor, we are live at the Patriot Center in George Mason University, the American Cup Gymnastics. And Bart, yesterday, what a job by Phoebe Mills. The way this competition works, there are 4 American women, but only 2 of them are allowed to advance to the final because the Americans are allowed to enter more than the other countries. Each of them can have only 1 woman, 1 man. Therefore, it became a battle between the 4 American girls, included Jennifer Say and Hope Spivey, as to who would make it to the final. Well, Phoebe Mills, with the floor exercise remaining, came up with an absolutely incredible performance and just snuck into the final.
And she really needed this performance because you'll notice that when she did her floor exercise yesterday, she was up against the wall. She needed a score of at least 9.75 to squeak in to beat out Hope Spivey, who had the meat of her life. She finished her exercise with a strong double back and just barely made it. And you know, most people had already considered that just guaranteed Phoebe and Christy would be the 2 Americans who make it through to the finals. Well, it wasn't so. It was a little hairy yesterday.
That's for sure. Jennifer Say and Hope Spivey both competing very hard to be the American representatives in this final round of only 8 women from around the world. Gymnasts here from 21 different countries, a very colorful show for a sellout crowd at Patriot Center at George Mason University, Fairfax, Virginia, not too far from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. This has been the home of the American Cup the past couple of years, and this has been a good, friendly place for you in terms of the competition itself. Bart, a 3-time winner. What's special about the American Cup?
Well, this is one of the most important international invitationals. There are a few. The Chunichi Cup in Japan, the Moscow News in the Soviet Union, and this event. It's very important in terms of building an international reputation. A winner here could go on to be world and Olympic champion.
Well, we have the final rotation, as it's called in gymnastics, coming up. Now, what does that mean specifically for the women? It is the floor exercise, the final of their 4 events. For the men, it will be the exciting and often dangerous high bar, or horizontal bar competition. That is the final event in their 6 apparati. And on the high bar, you can expect the crowd to really get into this because you have all of the daring do that you can muster in gymnastics when these men take to the high bar. You're looking at Scott Johnson, a member of the gold medal winning Olympic team. And after the Olympics, Johnson himself somewhat swept up in the post-Olympic hoopla and his gymnastics suffered, but he's really been coming along well. He's back on track, and we asked him if he felt this year would be a good one for him.
I feel stronger than I ever have been. I'm more flexible than I ever have been. My skills, I think, are technically better than they ever have been. So my gymnastics career is definitely on the uphill climb, and I think that hopefully by the '88 Olympics I'll be peaking.
Second place with 48.3 for the United
Well, there is Scott Johnson, currently in 2nd place behind his teammate Brian Ginsburg, and coming into the final event for him and the men on the high bar. Member of that 1984 Olympic gold medal team with our own Bart Connor. And Bart, how would you rate Scott on the high bar? Is this one of his stronger events? Is it in the middle of his group? How would you describe it?
Actually, I'd say it's a pretty good event for Scott. And except the whole thing about high bar, which makes it really hairy, is every good meet comes down to who's going to hang on to the high bar on the big release moves. Gogoladze, Scott Johnson, Brian Ginsburg, they're all chucking some of the very difficult moves. So some of those, you know, you invite a little inconsistency, and if Scott can hang on to his release moves, I think he'll be in good shape. It's going to come down to whether he nails his triple back. He and Gogoladze are both doing a triple flyaway dismount, and you got to stick the landings if you want to win this event.
Well, he was 2nd overall in the qualifying to Gogoladze yesterday, and he was tied for 2nd on this high bar event with a 9.7 yesterday. So Scott Johnson will be first up on the horizontal bar. the final rotation here live from Fairfax. We'll be back with the action in a moment.
Seat in the house for the much-awaited super fight.
Tim Ryan with Bart Connor and Ann Butler. We are live from the Patriot Center, George Mason University, awaiting the final rotation. And we'll begin with the men. Scott Johnson of the United States will be first up. And his teammate Brian Ginsburg, the current leader, will be the last man in the competition of the men. And he is the leader by a narrow margin over this young man, 25-year-old Scott Johnson, born in Cincinnati. Grew up in Colorado Springs, lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, recently married, and a graduate of the University of Nebraska. Yesterday, a 9.7 tied him for second in this event in the qualifying.
We're going to know how Scott's going to do right here at the top. He starts off the exercise with the one-arm giant swing, right into his inverted giant swings. Now he's going to hop pirouette, and he's going to set up again with a one-arm giant. Here comes the release move. 2 one-arm giants to a ginger. Nice, good form. So far, the rhythm is excellent. Beautiful work on a stalder. Now, here we go. He's got to nail this landing if he plans to be in contention. 1, 2, 3, triple back. Oh, oh. That's it. It's over.
Well, there is, folks, and you can see the emotion there. I mean, that tells the story. They know how well he was doing, and they know what happened at the finish, and they know what it will mean on the scoreboard.
It is so unfortunate that happened because Scott has been looking really good. In fact, maybe he just had too much juice. Yesterday, he pulled this around. He was a little short of rotation, so today I know he was really cranking the flip here, and unfortunately, he just pulled through a little too far. And let me tell you, that's pretty tough to land a triple back. I know how hard that is, and unfortunately, a little too much rotation.
He has been so solid here over the last 2 days, and in talking with him, his attitude is superb. He wanted to win this competition. He wanted to do well here today just to begin his year. He's looking forward to the Pan Am Games, which will be seen here on CBS in August, and pointing to the World Championships later in the year. I think right now he represents the best possible attitude for American male gymnasts.
And it's nice to see that since Scotty had a rough year last year, he got married, his priorities changed a little bit.
That was what made it rough, was it?
Changed a little bit. He's actually getting his act together. It's unfortunate he made a mistake there because he has been looking terrific.
Score is 9.30.
A 9.30 for Scott Johnson on the high bar. And he was second coming into this final event, and he winds up with 57.65. But he still, I believe, and that indicates it feels quite good about this entire competition. Now on the women's side, Christy Phillips floor exercise.
And I have to tell you, Christy has improved a tremendous amount here. Nice work on a full-in pike. She was a little short of rotation, but it's nice to see that she's doing the big tricks now.
Christy Phillips, yesterday second in the floor exercise with a 9.850. Finished second overall behind the Soviet Olga Strazheva.
One of the greatest qualities that Christy Phillips has is when she's out there on that floor, this girl is a little ham. And watch when she projects up to the audience. She's having a good time, and yet she's very serious about the next tumbling run, which is coming up here, which is a more difficult tumbling run than she used in last year's program. Here she goes. Down up back handspring, tuck double back. Nice work. Last year when I watched her perform in this event, I was so pleased to see with the way she handled the competition, the way she handled the crowd, the way she handled the pressure. But I didn't think she was doing a high enough level of difficulty in her exercises. Well, this year she's back, and she's a much better gymnast, and it's nice to see that. Here we go again, tuck, pike double back, nice landing, what a great dismount.
Christy's proud parents looking on, and Bella Caroli, her coach.
Good job, good job. Way to the people. Hey.
Bella Caroli with Christy Phillips and Phoebe Mills both looking hot in this competition. 14-year-old Christy Phillips, the defending champion from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, now living in Houston where she trains with Caroli, a 9th grade student.
this is a very important part of her exercise because last year she dismounted with a very easy double twist. This year she is really challenging the big difficulty. If she wants to be an Olympic contender, she has to be able to pull off these kind of moves at the end of a routine, and obviously she and Bella Caroli know that it's important for her program. Nice landing, what a great dismount.
This is looking back at Bella as he reacted. I referred to him as the Ion Tiriac of gymnastics. That reference to, of course, the Romanian tennis manager, coach, former player Ion Tiriac, himself a Romanian who coached so successfully Guillermo Vilas and now has the exciting Boris Becker. And with the mustache and all, it's an easy comparison to make, and they both agonized through their respective athletes' performance. Christy Phillips, and in this case with Bella Caroli, he's got to agonize through Phoebe Mills' performance as well.
9.775.
Here are the scores for Christy Phillips. 9.775. You saw the disappointment on the face of Christy Phillips. She will continue to trail the Soviet Olga Strazheva, who has yet to perform on the floor exercise. We'll be back with more of the McDonald's American Cup after this message and a word from your local station.
Just too soft.
Tim Ryan, Bart Connor, and Ann Butler back here live at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, where Augustina Badja has just completed her free exercise routine. And Badja, the 15-year-old Romanian, having an excellent meet as well. The leader remains the Soviet Olga Strazheva, and the defending champion Christy Phillips not happy at all with the score she received for her final rotation on the floor, 9.775. Yesterday, a better day for her on the floor, and she was clearly disappointed.
Well, actually, you know, she did a good exercise, and she did leave a little room open for Olga Strazheva, and I think that's what's worried her. Both Phoebe and Olga have a shot at edging her out if they really nail their floor exercise routines coming up.
You saw the standings as they are at the moment. Olga led coming into the final rotation. In that graphic material you just saw, she shows second place, and that is because she is just now about to compete in the floor.
And let's keep in mind the score that she needs to get to beat Christy Phillips, a 9.725. She did not achieve yesterday. She actually had a mistake in the first tumbling run. 9.575 was her score, and it's all going to come down to whether she nails that first tumbling run, and we'll know right at the beginning.
Yesterday, as we mentioned earlier, the mistake she made was going out of the boundary line over on the far corner away from our broadcast position with a very difficult tumbling run that left her just a little too far.
She was attempting a double front somersault, which is very difficult to spot the landing on. She's going to do it today and her first tumbling run again, and if she makes it, I think she's going to be home free.
Olga Strazheva, 14 years of age, from Zaporozhye in the Ukraine.
Okay, here we go. It's all right here. Handspring, front handspring, double front, forward roll, and she's still in bounds. Okay. 3 back handsprings, Arabian double front. What a terrific tumbling run.
She needs a 9.73 to regain the lead. Yesterday, a 9.575 with that problem going out of bounds. Second tumbling run.
Okay, she's taking a little too long to rest in the corner, but there it is, whip back to tuck double back, easy. She's a terrific tumbler, and yet she has tremendous expression, a nice body movement, some cute elements, and then right down to some very dramatic elements on the floor.
It was another Olga who started this whole gymnastics craze from the Soviet Union, Olga Korbut. Perhaps we're looking at another one here, Olga Strazheva.
This girl has every one of the important qualities to be the next world or Olympic champion. Right here, here's the big dismount. Back handspring, full twisting, double back. She's a little short, but she didn't put her hands down. That's going to score well.
Sellout crowd acknowledging the excellence of Olga Strazheva. Live from Fairfax, Virginia. Not too often you see live coverage of gymnastics, but We have it for you on the American Cup Championships here at George Mason University. Olga Strazheva waiting for her score, knowing she needs 9.73 or better. We assume she knows.
Okay, she's gonna dance a little here at the top and then back up into the corner. And she's attempting a double front, as I mentioned before, that is very difficult to see the landing on. I've never seen a girl perform this skill before her. Handspring, front, handspring, double front, forward roll, and now she goes right back across the floor with 3 back handsprings to an Arabian 1 3/4. Really nice stuff.
Bart, I know you determined yesterday that her favorite food is ice cream. In her first trip to the U.S., she's yet to sample American-style ice cream. Her coach won't let her have any till this is all over.
Yeah, he said after the meet, we're going out for a gallon.
Awaiting her scores, Olga Strazheva. And meanwhile, while we await that score, let's go down to Ann Butler with Christy Phillips.
Well, Christy's so anxious to watch Phoebe, she doesn't really want to talk to us. But Christy, how do you feel after your final rotation?
I feel great because, you know, I really feel like I did a very good job today.
Last year you had to perform under pressure to win. This year you have to wait to see what happens. Which is harder?
I feel that waiting is harder because, you know, when you don't know what you need and you're just going out there just to do your best, you know, you feel like you've got to do it. And this year, you know, I felt I had to do it, but I wasn't so motivated to do it.
Okay, we'll let you go back and watch. Back to you, Tim.
All right, Ann. Well, Christy Phillips with the score registered for Strazheva, 9.70, has retained her lead, even though she was disappointed in the score for her, 9.775. Now on the high bar, we're looking at Gogo, as we've called him here, Vladimir Gogoladze from the Soviet Union.
And so far his routine is great. He did 3 release moves in a row. Now he's going to set up for the triple back that Scott Johnson had trouble with. There it is, 1, 2, 3. Boom. What a nail. That is nailing the landing.
Whoa. 20-year-old Vladimir Gogoladze on the high bar. He needed a 9.5 in order to take the lead in the men's competition. Let's go back and look at the dismount as we await the score.
Here's the inverted giant swings. Hop pirouette. Now he's going to do nice rhythmical giant swings. Not too fast here. Pull that one across now. He cranks this thing up in the air. 1, 2, 3, and that is dropping a landing in.
Gogoladze had a 9.8 on the high bar yesterday. Needs a 9.5 to take the lead in the men's competition. Ginsburg still to come. He'll be the final competitor of the competition.
And did you notice, Tim, that after he finished his exercise, he got a kiss on the lips from his coach?
Well, that's okay.
I guess they do it a little differently in the Soviet Union.
And he got a 9.8, matching his score of yesterday. And Gogoladze has now taken the lead in the men's competition. And we're in this final rotation. And that cheeria here is for Phoebe Mills, the youngster from Northfield, Illinois, training in Houston with Bella Caroli and Christy Phillips. Here she goes in the floor exercise.
Here we go. Full in pike. Nice job.
Christy looked very strong in warm-ups, very confident. She needs a 9.88 to take the lead in this women's competition.
Now that 9.88 is actually 9.875. We've been rounding up for simplicity. I don't know if it's any simpler because of that, but she has gotten off to a terrific start with a full in pike, which is a new element for her. She's been using it probably about 6 months. But just as Christy did, she has also beefed up the difficulty of the tumbling run here, which is a very nice pike double back, which she did very easily.
Phoebe was first in the floor exercise yesterday with that almost comeback effort, 9.875 her score yesterday that got her into the final. Can she duplicate it here?
And we've talked about how Christy Phillips knows how to play to the audience. Well, Phoebe is getting there. She isn't quite the ham that Christy is, but she's doing much better and looking up off the floor, taking advantage of the energy and the electricity that the crowd can help you with.
This 4'6" tall Phoebe Mills, a 9th grade student, her final tumbling run.
Here we go, tuck double back, nice job.
Phoebe Mills,
Golly.
the only remaining competitor who could beat Christy Phillips.
I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of you guys, both of you.
One guy who isn't going to lose here today is Bella Caroli. One or the other of his girls will be the winner of the American Cup.
Yeah, it was a hard weekend.
And there they go.
That's too hard.
You heard them say how they push each other. They're best of friends, but they're competitors.
Here once again is the critical beginning of this exercise. Round off back handspring, full in, pike back. It isn't all that high, but it has terrific rotation. Here's the last tumbling run. He's going to do a tuck double back. Good lift. A little sloppy in the air, but you'd never know. It happens so fast, there's no way there's room for a deduction there.
Well, Bella Caroli watching that, he says, oh my goodness, how can they do any better? A look back at the happiness of Coach Bella Caroli. And the score coming up, this young girl who broke her wrist just a couple of months ago, she got a 9.825. That is not enough. It'll be Christy Phillips defending her title.
I think so. I think so, you tie. I think so. Let me see.
Christy Phillips has retained her championship. Nobody else could catch her except Phoebe Mills. And a 9.825, not enough for Phoebe Mills. And Christy Phillips, for the second year in a row, is the American Cup Women's Championship. And so we'll return to finish up the men's competition live from Fairfax, Virginia, in a moment.
Have it all.
Next, witness the first step of 1,000 dreams. The road to the Final Four, the NCAA Tournament Selection Show, March Madness on CBS Sports.
Tim Ryan with Bart Connor and Ann Butler, and it has developed that Christy Phillips is indeed the American Cup Women's Champion for the second year in a row. Defending her title, she trailed into the final rotation. She trailed the Soviet Olga Strazheva, a newcomer here in the U.S. who looked just outstanding and led all the way into the floor exercise. Phoebe Mills finished third, just fractions behind Olga Strazheva. Now let's go and join the champion with Ann Butler.
Well, first of all, congratulations to both of you guys for that great 1-2 punch. Christy, what did you think as you were waiting?
Well, I just wanted Phoebe to do her best, and I just wanted Olga to do her best. I mean, Oksana to do her best too, because I wanted everybody just to be pleased with what they've done.
And Phoebe, as you hit the floor exercise, were you really trying to beat Christy? What was going through your mind?
I wasn't trying to beat Christy at all. I just wanted to go out there and do a really good job and do good for myself, so I know that I had a good meet.
It's been kind of a rough year for you. Did you expect to do this well this year?
Well, I felt pretty prepared coming into this competition. At workouts, I was having really good workouts, and so I expected to do what I did.
Okay, congratulations again to both of you two, and good luck next events coming up. Tim, back to you.
All right, Ann. Well, of course, this has been a huge day in NCAA basketball competition with all of the tournaments finishing up today and setting up for the big one you'll be watching on CBS, the NCAA Championship Tournament. So for an update on today's basketball activity, let's go to Jim Nance in New York.
All right, thank you, Tim. Two conference tournaments are still underway. In the Big 8 final, it's Missouri over Kansas. They've just started the second half. The Pac-10 final at Pauley. Right now, though, let's get the conclusion on gymnastics. Let's go back to Tim Ryan.
All right, Jim, we are live in Fairfax, Virginia. Tremendously exciting American Cup competition. And in the men's, as it stands right now, we are in the final rotation on the high bar. The Soviet Vladimir Gogoladze is the leader. Scott Johnson in second place with Brian Ginsburg in fourth place, but he is yet to compete. So he can win this. He needs a 9.65 on the high bar, and he will be the last competitor today. We'll be back with the action in a moment. 20-year-old Brian Ginsburg, a chance to win the men's competition at the American Cup. Born in Miami, grew up in Mobile, lives in Los Angeles. He needs a 9.65 to win here today. He is upcoming. Yesterday, some problems on the high bar, a score of just 9.1, and we asked him what happened yesterday.
On my ginger, when I went to grab it, I grabbed with one hand. I didn't get my other hand completely on there. So when I kipped to do my other release, I sort of didn't have a grip, so I had to come back down and, reset my grip, and then I was able to get through the rest of the set.
Well, Bart Connor, as we look at Brian Ginsburg, I'm sure a lot of fans are saying, what did he say? What's a ginger?
Well, a ginger actually, technically, is a flyaway with a half-turn regrasp on the high bar. It's a very exciting move, but unfortunately, that's the move that injured Tim Daggett last week. That's also the move that injured Brian Babcock on our team. Eberhard Ginger, who invented the move from West Germany, is here as one of the judges. And I said, why did you ever invent that move? It's wiping out all of our best gymnasts.
Did you do a ginger?
I did a ginger, and
How well did you do a ginger?
I fell off the high bar as much as I made it.
All right, well, here's a young man who does not want to fall off the high bar. He's got a chance to win the men's competition here. Last year he came in, he was a dark horse. He wound up nearly winning it. Finished in second place at the American Cup last year here on CBS, and it really gave him an opportunity to make a name for himself. Among the American gymnasts, he was not one of the well-known guys.
Absolutely, and this type of competition actually plays right into Brian Ginsburg's hands. He is an optional performer. This is his baby, and so I think this is where you'll have an opportunity to see him shine. Iris and
Nettie Ginsburg are here to watch their son in action today, and of course they must be tremendously excited at the position he's in here with a chance to win the competition.
And once again, it's important to note that there are no compulsory exercises in this event, so it is different from an Olympic or a World Championship competition. The gymnasts are just being judged on their optional exercises, which of course for Brian Ginsburg is a terrific advantage.
Well, it's been a battle between Ginsburg, Scott Johnson, and the Soviet Gogoladze. Let's go down and see what Scott Johnson, who's already been on the high bars, thinking at this moment. He's with Ann Butler.
Scott, how do you assess Brian's chances?
Well, the way that I see it, all he's got to do is get through his routine, nothing fancy, get through his routine, land on his feet on his dismount, and he's got this competition won.
I bet you're pulling for him.
I'm pulling for him. I want a USA to walk out with a first place trophy. The girls have already done it, now it's Brian's turn.
Well, I know how badly you want to watch this, and we're going to let you turn around and do just that. Tim, back to you.
All right, Ann, there's Brian Ginsburg, and just what Scott Johnson said was exactly what we talked about earlier. His attitude this year, starting 1987, is just superb in terms of the U.S. chances in the Pan Ams and in the World Championships. So now he's cheering for his teammate, Brian Ginsburg. His parents looking on. You can see a little anxiety there, especially in Dad working the hands over, and up he goes.
Brian knows right now that he has to do the best he's ever done in his life on this event. There's a full twisting one-arm giant swing. Here's a pirouette. There's a one-arm ginger. Okay, he was in a little close, but there was where the problem was yesterday, and today it looks great. Nice ginger. So far, this routine is excellent. Okay, it's all going to come down to whether he nails this landing. Nice. 1, 2, 3, triple back. That's it. I'll bet you that's our champion.
What a job by Brian Ginsburg. We'll have his score for you momentarily. The silver medalist a year ago, perhaps the new champion among the men here today. A psychology major at UCLA who now wants to study veterinary medicine. A bright, interesting young guy, and now suddenly a factor in men's gymnastics in world competition with the Pan Ams and the World Championships ahead. Let's go back for a replay here.
Okay, right at the top of his exercise, he does a pirouette. One arm, full twisting giant swing. A little trouble there, but he kept the rhythm moving. Now here comes the release moves that he had trouble with before. There's a one arm to a ginger. Good position. Back up, pirouette. Now again, a ginger, and that one was right on. He knows at this point that he's gotten past the most difficult elements, and he's really great at doing dismounts. So I think at this point he thought, I got this baby nailed.
Well, he did get it. 9.75. Brian Ginsburg is the new men's champion of the American Cup here at George Mason University. Scott Johnson will be second. Johnson finishes third with Gogoladze, the Soviet, in second place, but the champion, Brian Ginsburg of the United States, and Christy Phillips, the American Cup Women's Champion. And so, an exciting competition comes to conclusion for Bart Connor and Ann Butler. This is Tim Ryan saying so long from the Patriot Center, George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. Coming up next, the road to the Final Four, the NCAA Tournament Selection Show. The McDonald's American Cup Gymnastics Championship has been a presentation of CBS Sports.